females egg so much shit on me because they don't know no better, bruh.
Right.
It pisses me off. You egging dumb shit on. The whole point in the female is to control the nigga, right?
That's what they think. So, hold on. You said the way that this is happening, I think that this is going to be how other artists died by other artists' hands. I mean, by other people's hands. But when you think about it, there has been some kind of lead. What really fucked me up about this whole thing is the police has pretty much given up on it. They're treating it like it's a normal first 48. Now they're saying that they think it's a random. They think it's people who have committed a string of random acts of violence and robbery. And now everybody else is saying that the people who committed this crime were waiting at that light or waiting at that point for him to depart from what was it, a motorcycle place?
Yeah, he was about to buy a motorcycle. I don't know where he was at. It sounds like, from what I heard from one person on the damn internet from different perspectives, that sounded like he was in the hood or some shit. But he wasn't, obviously. I don't know where he was.
But the crazy thing about it is when I said Michael Jackson, okay, Michael Jackson, there wasn't as much social media when Michael Jackson died. But even somebody like Prince, even somebody like Bankroll Fresh, who was the last person to die? Slim Duncan. People have died by the hands of other people. Celebrities have died by the hands of other people. And it just wasn't. And for the police to chalk it up to a random act of violence, I think it's because so many people were calling in and saying it was this one Soldier Kid guy, and now the witnesses are saying that he didn't have a red mask. The killer had a red bandana, you know, and now they're saying, the witness is saying that they had their bare faces out. That's what they're saying. The witnesses are saying that they had their bare faces out, and that all they had was red bandanas tied around their necks or what have you. Like, I think it's I don't know. I don't know,
man. Motherfuckers spitting out so much different shit. Then on top of that, I heard he got shot 5 times and shit. Like, I don't know what's real. I don't know what ain't. You know what I mean? I wasn't there.
Then they're just now releasing that he got shot in the neck. One time, 3 shots. One hit him in the neck. It went in the neck and came out the other side. Like, that's usually the first thing they say. They usually say where the person got shot soon as they get that detail. But they didn't say that shit till 2-3 days later. Like, that's sketchy to me. But
yeah, maybe because it got put in the papers and shit. I mean, do you trust the people that if you had a job, would you trust your manager?
No. Do I trust the person that says if I can eat or not? No, I wouldn't trust that person because they have a boss too. No, I wouldn't trust that. But
I don't trust a lot of big huge facets in this way of life. Like significant facets.
I mean, I don't really want to. I'm gonna go into it a little bit, but the biggest determiner of the American economy, of course, is the medical field. So if you have somebody that is relieving people, a lot of people were talking about how when I interacted with these X fans, they were saying that, they helped themselves to X's music, and X's music relieved them of a lot of different mental illness symptoms and problems that came along with having specific mental illness, such as depression or even social uh, problems that helped them deal with the issues that they had. So if you're gonna take X was X was a lot of people's holistic alternatives to these psychotropic drugs, to these antipsychotics and these antidepressants and a lot of these medicines that were helping people and aiding the American economy. So of course, if a person's music is going to be the alternative to
Can't have that.
you can't have that. Yeah. When we have somebody like, and that goes back to the video, which is going to be my next question. That goes back to the video where I said, I believe that he knew what he was doing with his energy. He wasn't just throwing it around randomly. He was doing what he needed to do according to his own personal agenda. We have a lot of these X fans weaning themselves off of things, turning to his music, and building a I don't even want to use the word empire.
Foundation.
A foundation. That's a great word. Foundation. How are you going to take something that we've made commercial, and we literally have commercials for this shit, and you're going to replace it with something so simple as music? Why are you going to give these people their faith back, their character back, their morals back, their life back? And it's not even a fact of how or why.
In the way I think
you have the
audacity. We
audacity.
have to make this money.
Right.
We have this wonderful thing for these people to get better, as you see on this piece of paper right here.
Right.
Yeah.
We already cooked this in a lab for you. We already cooked this up in a lab for you, and you have the audacity to heal yourself with somebody's music who did this and did this and did this. And obviously at this point, bro, you know that we're back live. And I'm gonna try to get it cracking at this point. Yeah, my Wi-Fi went out, bro. I don't know what's been going on. But we got THOT Star here, man. I was just trying to make sure. I didn't want to keep asking him too many questions because I've been having problems with my Wi-Fi and things like that. But so I definitely want you to invest your time into the video that I made about X's death. It's called "Did Xxxtentacion Commit Suicide?" And the basic premise of that video was saying that he knew what energy is made of, and he knew what the outcome or the consequences, the negative consequences of him speaking on death, speaking on turmoil, speaking on depression was. Now, did he put that energy out there for him to be able to collect one day? Just like we have a lot of these broke rappers out here speaking about money, because you can trick a lot of people to think you have money if you spend cash on your production value. And then, of course, if the song sounds good and you're rapping about money, a lot of people are going to think you have money. And then you're going to be able to collect that money energy in the end. Do you think that X did that? Do you think that it was his intention to be able to have that negative energy to collect, to use for himself one day? Do you agree with that?
I think he already knew, like all the other people in this music industry.
Right.
No matter what genre, I think he knew. Being that he already expressed the fact that he felt in tune. He already actually shown the proof that he's in tune with his generation and the younger ones before him, after him, before him.
Right.
And after. He's already proven that. It's people. These people know these things because of the creativity that's already within them. Meaning that you're not thinking in the same way. First of all, if you go out here, bro, it's nothing but creativity that you see. It's not necessarily a rule and a law and this and that and the third, and it's written on paper. It's nothing but creativity you see out here. Everything has something to do with something. It's like, I mean, even if it's man-made, it still has something to do with something. It's all we're all human. There's a thing that's always gonna be there, like a woman's intuition, right? Intuition, right?
Right.
Same thing. How do they know? Like what do they know?
Okay.
What do we know?
So
what do you know? Not you as you too. Everybody is an individual.
See, the difference is X put out songs where the hook was R.I.P. me, where he was the person that was subject to death. He was the person that was subject to pain. He was the person that was the main character that was being inflicted with all these negative energies. Do you my question was, I mean, we both know, you and I know, that he was aware that Malcolm X and MLK and even Kurt Cobain, even maybe 50 Cent. 50 Cent hasn't made that many songs. The only song where 50 Cent made was two songs. I'm Supposed to Die Tonight and Many Men. 50 Cent does not make that many songs where he's saying, I am the subject of death and I am okay with that. Big Pun. All these rappers in the 90s.
Embodies the villain.
He embodies the villain, but he has a line where he says, I watch gangster flicks and root for the bad guys, but I turn it off before it ends because the bad guy dies. Right? So that's a clear message to me that 50 Cent understands energy. He understands that he's not going to make himself the subject of this dark ass energy in this song that millions of people are going to eventually listen to. By the time he's 60, 50 is going to this song is going to be listened to by millions and millions of people. Now, in this day and age, if you're under the age of 25, millions of people are going to listen to this shit in 3 months, right? So my point is, if anybody lost me, that me, Stats, and the listener knows that Xxxtentacion knows that, or knew that this was not a good idea to put yourself as the main character being inflicted or afflicted by this energy of death. It's in my theory that because he knew this, he was okay with putting himself in that position. Why would you position yourself to be the main character in this story, right? Because I'm gonna say this, and I'm gonna turn the floor back to you. One of my, and I read many books on this, not many, 3, but if you wanna make your life better, it's a psychological method called scripting, and what you do is you write a story and you make yourself the main character for this story, right? So you can say, I woke up one day, I felt awesome about my life, blah, blah, blah. It's pretty much like journaling. It's pretending like you're writing a story and making yourself, putting your energy into the main character and making all these great things happen. Guess what, journal? I got signed to a main record label, blah, 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 blah. And then when you do that, all the good things that you wrote in the story happens to you because that's how the subconscious mind and the universe works. So why would he put himself in this position for him to be, like you said, the bad guy and to be the receiver of all this negativity? Why would he do that?
Right.
And it's in my opinion, that it was an indirect version of collecting that free energy and suicide, essentially, bro. Like that's my theory. That's my theory.
But then
Especially,
again, yeah.
go ahead.
Yeah. Not then again, yeah, I agree, yeah.
You agree?
Why wouldn't you is the question.
Why wouldn't you?
There's obviously a big void in that. Why wouldn't you show it? Because obviously people want to know that because it's something there in somebody. But why wouldn't you show it even though you may feel or even know that you have actually lost the high ground? I mean, technically didn't lose the high ground, gained more high ground, but took the low road. Or took level ground.
So we have, shout out to Zen Tracks. Zen Tracks said that X had a death wish and sadly it was granted. That's exactly what I'm saying, bro. When you write a story and you put yourself as the main character and you put a lot of energy into it, and you know he professed that he was an avid meditator. Um, his star power, his spirit power, his soul power was not one of a. It wasn't low, and of course, if you have millions of people listening to this message, it's going to become true in millions of people's dimensions and millions of people's worlds. So why would you put yourself in that position to be the catalyst? Why would you put yourself in that position to be the main character in this fictitious, story? And that's just in more support. Now you said that stats. You said that you agree with that. In what degree? So you're saying that you agree that maybe that was his intention or his message or his music, his catalog was just one long suicide note, because that's literally what I think. That's literally what I think.
Story.
It was history.
Man,
His story.
Dude was legit.
Right.
Dude was legit, and he was obviously an angry jit. He was an angry kid, angry.
And for people who don't know what jit means a youngster, a young person. By physicality. Physically, he was only 20 years old. You know, I mean, as wise as he proclaimed and even professed and even shown himself to be, he still 2 years ago was only 18. He's still only 4 years 4 years before his birth. Before his death, he was only 16. He still had the hormonal function of a teenager. So it's not like this guy was, regardless of his experience and his knowledges and his wisdoms, he was still a kid to a lot of people. I'm 27. People still acknowledge me as a kid. If you're 40 and you're talking to me, this person still had the hormone, and he was black too. He still had the hormonal functions of a teenager. He still had the understanding of the world in specific respects of somebody that was 14 and 16 and 18. I can't relate to a 14-year-old. I can't relate to an 18-year-old like a 20-year-old can, because physically we don't have the same goddamn body. He still had the same hormonal attachments that adults in this stage physically don't have. So we still cannot forget that this guy was only 20 years old. He was still not legally old enough to buy a fucking beer if he wanted to.
Or even rent a car.
Or rent a car, or even get a fucking hotel in some states. Zentrack says, exactly, bro. X wrote it. He knew it. He knew X laid. What's crazy, he laid his soul down to God in his last track. And that's unfortunate. Like, I think the youngest person ever recorded in history to commit suicide was like 10 or 8 years old, a little black girl from Chicago. And for a 8-year-old or a 10-year-old, I'm not exactly sure how old she was, for you to feel like you can't even survive on the world, no matter how many resources you have. Just like
Right.
shout out to O'Shea. O'Shea said there's countless people that have, they died with millions of dollars in the bank, but they still had the choice and made the choice to take their own life. That money doesn't make anything better if you don't place it anywhere. He could have put it in a good place. Is
It's,
that go
to
ahead,
me, these
motherfucker.
things that we live with and been living with for a while, like the good die young, and all these little things actually have real meaning, and it shows in every way. There's a reason why these sayings are sayings. Like, it's weird. That's how I depict it. There's a reason why these things are out here like that. You can't really teach everybody, but you can creatively show somebody. Like, creativity is what usually gets to people, and it makes people run also. But that also has to be in question. That's in the individual. That's in the eyes of the individual.
See, at 20, at 20, I think it was that ego factor, bro. You can't teach somebody that is 20. You know what state of mind you were in when you were fucking 20. I know where I
Right.
was mentally when I was 20. X seemed like the type of
And
person where
I was low key mad.
I mean,
High key mad.
20. He was born in he was born in 1998. He was born 3 years after Tupac died, bro. Me and Stats remember when Tupac. I don't know if you remember when Tupac died. I remember
Yeah.
when Tupac died.
And
I
Biggie.
remember when Biggie died. I remember when CDs came out. I remember when iPods came out.
Yeah.
This is somebody who, by the time he was 13, so that would have made us 20. He was 13 when we were 20. When MySpace was like 5 years old, Facebook was like 4 years old, touchscreens were like 3 years old, touchscreen phones. The BlackBerry like 1530 was the hottest phone on the market. Like, the problems that we've experienced, I don't know exactly what he's been through, of course, but it's just it's such a generational gap. It's such a big generational gap. He was 2 years younger than my sister. Shout out to Aaliyah, but the generational gap in between somebody that was my age and his age, when you're born in that information age, when you were born with the internet came out in like what 80, 85, 82 to 85. It didn't get big until like 93 to 95. So by the time 98 came out, by the time 98, the internet was a real thing. But when you add that, when you take 7 years away from our lives, that is a generation that, of course, these things that were experienced, they would have been a little bit bigger. But let's keep going on with this, bro. So
Yeah.
when we go on,
With the
no, go ahead.
with all that saying about his age and all that and coming up, how does he still understand the whole fact of that, of this whole energy aspect and all of that? Mine's the surface shit. How does this man understand the same shit? How does he understand the same waves and still like have these millions of people and still put out where everybody understands.
Because
old heads even understand where we come from. Old heads is the one that put us on. It'll be random ass old heads that'll come up to me, not now, but random ass old heads that'll come up. They used to come up to me and be like, "Hey, this and that," just off rip, just off of just peeping my shit, peeping how I move. And it won't be anything that they were gaining from it that I thought of.
I mean,
like he knew this.
At this point in his age, well, I'm just gonna go off of 13 because I'm getting drawn to that number for him. So
yeah,
let's say by by the time he was 13, that was 2010, 2010, 2009. I mean 2009 to 2011. What was big? This is right before Gucci Mane went to jail again. This is when Lil Wayne was only mainstream for 3 years. This is when the if you look at it, the whole social media wasn't even that big. This is when we didn't even have social media apps on our phone. So when you look at it, it was still a time of research. This was still a time of finding yourself. And according to what he was saying, he parted with specific lifestyles, and he was roaming and doing certain things that that weren't a part of his home status. We'll just say it like that. So he was pretty much free to roam. Even when you talk to these kids at this point, they know who Nas is. They know who Wu-Tang Clan is. They know who they know the old Gucci Mane. They know these Aaliyah songs that we grew up with. They know R. Kelly.
Mm-hmm.
So imagine
they know Mario, Street Fighter.
They know fucking Omarion and Lil Bow Wow songs. Even right now. Even 10 years after what he was talking about. Even 10 years after his adolescence. They still are beating their minds off of what we grew up on. So imagine what he had access to free of charge during this time, during his adolescent stage. So what I'm saying is he had access to a lot of downloads that we had access to in a later stage. Just imagine if you had a kid right now and they were 10 and you just took all the music that you listened to from 1991 to 1999. Like they know the Hot Boys and Juvenile. I'm like, how the fuck you know this song? Okay, yeah, play that. Like, but this is all while he's roaming the streets, trying to survive, possibly being violent, doing whatever he had to do. So that's what I'm saying. Not only is he interacting with himself and this new thing called the internet and this new thing called the social media. This is 2 years after, well, maybe a good 4 years after Soulja Boy just came out. When he's walking around roaming, homeless in his own zone. Plus, he has all these old people trying to take advantage of him and sending him on fucking drills and shit like that, or not drills specifically, but whatever he had to do. That's what I'm thinking about, because he had people to feed his mind. And then how did he know about energy? Because he's from Florida, bro. He's from Florida. Like, Florida is that energy state. That's pretty much like growing up in New Orleans. Florida is like New Orleans, but in the Midwest. That's how I think of it.
Okay, because Orlando, Broward County is a little further south. Florida, like nigga. Louisiana definitely would. Louisiana, Alabama, and Georgia and all them motherfuckers, probably a little bit of less Georgia, but Georgia, Mississippi, and all them motherfuckers definitely would bleed into the place that I'm at right now, nigga. Them niggas, and Texas. Everywhere.
It was more the diversity we have at that time. That's 12 years after that whole cocaine Scarface epidemic. So we still have all these people. Everybody, just like everybody was asking why Chicago was so bad. Chicago's so bad right now because everybody who went to prison for all these bodies in the 80s and the 90s, which is the worst part of Chicago violence, is getting out right now. Why the fuck you think it's so goddamn bad? Because all these people are getting out right now. So all these people who went to jail for attempt murders and for selling 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 kilos of cocaine are getting out of prison when XXX was on the street. Of course the motherfucker's gonna be fucked up and have all this knowledge. Of course. Think about it. Think about it like this. Who went to jail? Who was probably 15 or 16, 17 and did 20 years for a body and came out of prison by the time we were on the streets, bro? That's where you're going to get your influence from. Think about it like that.
And they probably went to the pen in like what, the 70s, 60s?
Probably went to the, yeah, exactly, bro. So you're hanging around people like that, did 10 years. That's how I try to gauge every generation. Okay, who was the motherfucker who went to prison and is just now getting out 10 years before he was born, 5 years before he was born, 20 years? Who is just, by the time he hit the street, who was just doing 20 years by the time he got out? That's who I think we should be looking at this point. If you look at that 17 album, that's that's jazz. That's jazz. That's blues. He didn't get that just from anybody. You know, that's why I wanted to ask you who you think is his biggest influences, and I wrote down, Erykah Badu, D'Angelo, Outkast. I mean, of course, his mom was around the same age as my mom, probably a little bit younger. Younger. So she grew up off of 80s stuff and then went into her adulthood listening to 90s stuff.
When the real American gangster bullshit, the Blue Magic and all of that, that was the kid.
That was the granddad. Yeah, Blue Magic at that point. American Gangster was a granddad at that point.
Yeah.
By the time
with a whole family of dope dealers.
By the time we were doing our thing, everybody who got locked up in the 80s were getting out. Everybody was the wildest time for gangbanging in American history that got locked up in the 90s was getting out. The last thing they remember is a beeper and a 5.0. That's the last thing they remember. So let's get off that topic, bro. I've been speaking on that shit for like 15 minutes. We've been speaking on that. So I'm gonna go back to these questions. So these normal people questions, we're gonna go back. So of course, after homie departed from us and transcended this vibration, what do you think influenced the people who he was trying to affect the most? Because, like I told you before, I went back and I checked out his catalog, and it was very much so a lot more diverse than I expected. I thought he was going to be a bubblegum rapper. I thought he was going to be more of a commercial. I thought he was going to be more of a rich homie Quan. I thought he was going to be more Gucci, possibly Waka Flocka type rapper. But come to find out, a lot of his supporters that I interacted with said that they were aided and assisted with their depression and emotional disorders. So when I listen to his music, I'm not gonna lie, I became more saddened. You know, it made me think about my problems and things that I didn't really want to think about. Granted, I'm not a teenager, so maybe, you know, I'm
Right.
not his target market. So it made me feel fucking sad. I was thinking about my son and all kind of changes I'm going to make in my life, and I was sad when I listened to his material. But why do you think that his music healed his audience, in your opinion? Because you're a fan, so.
Relatability. That's it.
Yeah.
The simple fact that what made me happy is that he was so young and I can still relate. No, I'm not like 30, 40.
No, you're
No
still a
bullshit
young
like that. I'm
cat,
damn
yeah.
near close to 30. You know what I'm saying? But I can still relate. That's what drew me in. Like, you know, the whole, like, including, like, Look at Me. Look at Me was the popping song, right? I didn't know him as
Yeah, that was,
massive before Look at Me. It still drew me in, though. It drew me in, obviously, the marketing plan, or whatever the case was. You know what I'm saying?
right.
Whatever it was, however it was done. It drew me in. Bang. Got me right there. All right, let me listen to more shit. All right, let me keep going. All right, damn, I hear this message. I hear that. There's more to this dude than meets the eye. I mean, shit. Everything in I'm sure everything in some people's lives speaks that. It's hidden in plain sight. This rapper, this guy, this person. Damn. Yeah, this person was just him, and he spoke what he wanted. That's why I think people love him. Love his music.
Right. I get it. I get it. And what's really, what's really, I don't want to use this word, but I'm going to use it on anyway. What's really unfortunate is that he took that same route that a lot of older generational people would use. You know, they will put a song with one energy out, and then the album will be totally different. But because he gained so much popularity, you know, maybe 62 million people listened to Look at Me. But then when his album came out, those 62 million people turned into, we'll say, 20 million people. 20 million people, right?
Yeah.
And out of those 20 million people that actually listened to the album, maybe 10 million people bought the album. And then out of those 10 million people, 5 to 8 million people were hardcore fans. And because of the timing of it, because of the era, Look at Me came out when my son was about 1 years old, 1 year old, excuse me. So when that came out, I'm thinking he's not going to use that same that same tactic because even 10 years prior, we'll shoot 10 years prior, Back Then by Mike Jones came out. Back Then spoke to his whole album. Look at Me didn't speak to his album. And that is a tactic that maybe Jay-Z, 50 Cent put out what was 50 in the club. And then the whole Get Rich or Die Trying wasn't in the club music. It didn't sound like in the club at all. It was gangster music. So that's what really took me by surprise. That's what I was really disappointed by. And the fact of the matter is, if he would have put out the song Revenge, if that would have been his single, maybe not that many people would have gravitated towards his music. But selfishly, what I'm gonna say is at least I would have been like, okay, well, let me look at it. Let me check this out. And that really fucked me up. That really fucked me up. That the fact that that was his single.
Before, I'm definitely going to say that Bob Marley and maybe DMX was definitely one of his influences.
Oh yeah, yeah. He never said DMX, but DMX was definitely one of his influences because he had that. What's the song with Mary J. Blige? Coming from places where I've been, things that I have seen. What you call a nightmare, but what I have is dreams. Like, yeah, that was definitely DMX was definitely one of his influences. What I said was Waka Flocka, DMX, 3 6 Mafia, Trick Daddy, Erica Badu, D'Angelo, Taylor Swift, Outkast, Jimi Hendrix, Nirvana, The Weeknd, and I think I already said Trick Daddy. But that was my take on his influences.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm feeling
And
Snoop Dogg for some reason. Snoop, definitely. And I didn't write this down, but Twista as well.
yeah,
Yeah. Bob Marley. Just the message and the delivery.
yeah.
You know what? I think he read more than he actually, or maybe he had a good balance because he
Yeah,
reminds me of
I
one of
think
the
it's more of a
homies.
balance. I mean, from what I've been hearing, he actually didn't read like that, which I don't even.
Yeah.
And he said from what I hear on the internet from his mouth was that he already had that mindset before reading the book. He already made up his decision on his mindset.
Hmm.
At least the main keys about it, from what I got from what I heard on the internet.
The only reason that I may agree with that is because he didn't use, and maybe because it was his audience, he didn't use super, I'm just gonna say it for all intents and purposes, he didn't use super big ass words. That's the only indication that he probably didn't read as much as he sounded like he read. But you know how he structured what he said. He probably read. I know he read fucking at least one holy text, but he might not have read a hell of a lot just because
Yeah,
when he spoke, he didn't try to go over people's heads. And like how when I speak sometimes, which I don't do it now anymore because it's a turn off for a lot of people. When I try to use I try to use words that are uncommon commons to make you want to Google the shit that I said or phrases. And people are like, oh, what the fuck does that mean? Transmutation. But because he used words like exaltation and transmutation, he used more energy words, which is why
you ever been? Yeah, you have. Huh. It's a badass question. But you ever been around people where you don't understand the language, but you understood the flow, you understood what was going on, not necessarily off of just body language, even though that was like 70% of it. It's kind of like being in a group of Korean or Japanese people, not really knowing the language, but knowing a few things and still learning and picking up on how to use it.
I'm gonna say
And when they
I'm gonna say yes and no. I'm gonna say no because when I was in that presence, the conversation wasn't necessarily excuse me, wasn't necessarily meant for me, but um the body language and the facial expressions and the nonverbal communication was to fill in the blanks for people who didn't understand, the people who, you know, the codes were not meant for. So, no, in that regard, and yes, in that regard. But what I, so yeah, yes and no. So when I was in that activity, the conversation wasn't meant for me. But whenever I was around that or involved in that, it was not so subliminal. So yes and no. Cause I haven't been in that. I haven't been in situations where niggas haven't been able to say, "Yo, this is like this is like that." It's not a code. That's really what I mean. Like But
Right, because they want you to understand.
Cause yeah, there has to be no breakdown in communication. Um, More of a training process. So yeah. So
You
I
know,
do. No, go ahead.
yeah. I need to let's kind of move on with what some of these people are saying.
Okay, yeah, that's what I wanted to ask you. I wanted to definitely reiterate, or not get you to reiterate on what we have already touched on before, because we have recorded a couple of these questions, and it's my Wi-Fi went up, and AaroniMoses has definitely committed a great fuck up. But my what I want to ask you is, how do you feel about uh Geneva's presence at at X's memorial? And for those who don't know who Geneva is, if you know about any of the accusation, not any of that, the specific accusation of X, committing that crime against this alleged pregnant woman, which she was never pregnant or anything like that. She actually changed her Instagram name to Liar, and there was information, specifically text messages put out where she said that she would call the police on one of her best friends and say that he raped her and beat her up. And from there, we can conclude that this is a habit of this lady, because she said it to one of her best friends, because he was hounding her and asking her what happened between her and X, and she was pretty much like, "Why are you asking me this? If you keep asking me, you're harassing me. So I'm gonna call the police on your motherfucking ass too. I'm gonna say you beat me up and raped me too." I don't have access to those texts anymore because they've been deleted from the IG that I'm following. But so pretty much she's saying that she falsely accused him. Geneva is his ex-girlfriend that said that she was pregnant, which she wasn't. She lied about that, and that he beat her up, and she lied about that as well. And she showed up at his memorial service with thousands of his fans. After that, they proceeded to challenge her to physical combat and burned her offerings that she brought to his memorial. Now, what do you think about that situation? Because no, go ahead. Go ahead.
I think that she paid her respects, and I think that the people, I wouldn't necessarily call them supporters or fans. I think that the people just went off of the mad and sad energy, and these people are at different walks in their life at different times.
Right.
So when you have millions, hundreds of thousands, hundreds of people that know this, I mean, well, kind of like it's weird. Like, what would you expect? Kind of. So, like, I don't really understand. She paid her respects, and that's really all that matters. I really couldn't delve into this man's life because I don't know what actually happened or what went on. I just know what we see on paper and what we hear on the internet. But do I actually know what went on and what happened?
Okay, so my opinion on this is that I'm not gonna go too hard on her, but you have thousands of people who are saying RIP X and paying their respects electronically. And then, of course, you have the couple of people who are not fans or big fans, or maybe even disliked him because of something that she accused him of doing legally and was legally pursuing. Whether or not he did it is not even important at that point because the state, we all know the state would have been glad to pick this case up. So you have RPX, 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 and then you have that one asshole that's going to say, why are you saying RIP to a woman beater, to somebody who beat up pregnant bitches? And then you have 1,000 more fucking people under that replying to it, defending his name. Why are you speaking on the dead? 48 laws of my eye, blah, 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 blah. What's up, Johnny James? But my whole thing is, you cost this man thousands, possibly millions of dollars, possibly millions of dollars. Even if she would have came out before his transition to transcendence to the other, you still branded him. You still put this stigma on him as a bitch beater, bro. Not only a bitch beater, a pregnant bitch beater, and no disrespect to women when I say this, but in this case, we're talking about this bitch, this woman, and she's not even a woman at this point. She's a bitch for saying some shit like that, for accusing him of some shit like that. So I don't know if he was guilty or not, but I know she accused him of this and she recanted this shit. So what I'm saying is, why do you feel like you need to be able to be seen as an equal at this point? Now you're trying to cloud up. Now you're trying to get some Insta fame. Now you're trying to get something out of this. You could have went 3 o'clock in the morning when everybody was gone and left your offerings and mourned. You already know not to do this. When you went on social media for billions of people to see, not millions, billions of people to see this shit, potentially billions of people to see this, saying, well, I wasn't really pregnant. He really didn't beat me up. I loved him and I regret it. Bro, this is not like Courtney. Imagine if Courtney Love would have did this in the 90s. She'd be dead. She would be DEAD. If Courtney Love said that right now, if Courtney Love said, I didn't really kill Kurt Cobain, um, it was this and I did this, the police wouldn't even have a chance to get to her, bro. She would be dead. But for somebody to cause thousands of people who actually listened to X and loved him to not listen to him anymore because of their own values and morals, and for him to lose millions of dollars and for you to paint him as such a character, that's horrible, bro. That's horrible.
It is. That actually speaks a lot, bro.
And why do you?
It speaks a lot, but that kind of strays off subject from what I want to say. But this, like I said before, these people go through different things in times in their life, and the world ain't perfect, bro. Now, in my eyes, you can still speak your piece or show your piece in a certain way to where you can let the individuals privately that are involved to show your respects and tell the truth and come out with it. Now, in the way clouding up, that's definitely a big factor. That's a big ass question mark in this equation. The way that she came about it, maybe she just wanted to be there. Now, the world ain't perfect. We all gonna think how we think because it was so public.
Right.
I don't know what she was thinking. I really couldn't understand it. But I do know it could have been done in a different way. And there's a lot of people out here that's probably gone through the same thing, or probably not have gone to the same extent as what she did, and in the way he is, and in the way and who he is and what he does. But for the regular person to see that and they know how this shit goes and they've had to deal with it and had to keep their mouth shut, I could understand that too. but I still respect that people are going through different walks of life at different times, and the world ain't perfect. I would literally just let her be, show your respects, pay no mind.
Honestly, even of course, I already told you guys, I wasn't before a huge X fan, but at this point, I mean, divine timing is a bitch, is related to karma, that bitch. Maybe if she wouldn't have put those accusations in the air, maybe he wouldn't even been in Florida. Maybe he wouldn't have been subject to his death. I'm not blaming him. I'm not blaming his death on her or anything like that. But there's so many what ifs. The fact of the matter is, a normal person, a person that is a hardcore gangster, which from what I understand, X was not. A hardcore gangster, we'll say in the streets of Atlanta, in the streets of Chicago, LA, Bed-Stuy, Houston, would kill you over $300. But for somebody to cost you millions, possibly millions of dollars, would not be surviving for too much longer if that was the case. So, with that being said, a lot of things would have been different in his life if these accusations would not have been made accusations.
Probably.
Maybe he would still be alive. Maybe if that was the real, if it was real, if people, I'm an Aries, so maybe I'm thinking too extremely. Maybe I'm just too old school. But if they really would have thought that, I think they probably would have slain her. She got in a little fight, whatever. She made her little Instagram. She's getting clout. There's a lot of people getting clout off this right now. There's 6ix9ine getting clout. The accused killer, even sadly, is getting clout right now. A good friend of mine, Rizzo Luciano, actually foresaw the accused killer. I'm not gonna keep calling him that. Soldier Kid. He made a reaction video to one of his videos that he put up on WorldStar about a month ago. There's a lot of people trying to cloud up off of this horrible occurrence. We have 6ix9ine. That's not even honestly, bro. Honestly, I'm gonna stop it right here. I really don't want to talk about 6ix9ine trying to cloud up off of this.
Yeah, to say my piece on all of that. All of these people, I don't know about Soldier Kid, but 6ix9ine, Adam 20, 6ix9ine, these interviewers, all of these interviewers, and the people that just make videos on him. There's people that knew him. There's also like just random ass YouTubers and shit that knew him, and it's weird, bro. I don't know if it would be fucked up if they actually gained clout off of that bullshit. You know what I mean? It would be fucked up, like in pertaining to ads, in pertaining to grow themselves. Now, mind you, maybe this is what X wanted, right? To get your money, man. I don't know. But people that are blatantly probably don't even like the motherfucker. You know what I'm saying? Don't even like his music. Probably never listened to it a day in their life. And just proclaim them as a certain type of person. And then they wanna make this and they wanna do that and then gain off of that. Those are the people I'm talking about.
Right. Because I had a couple of producers reach out to me during a couple of these live streams and just seeing my videos, and they took real offense to me saying they were like, "Yeah, I feel you, bro. I really like your material. Can I send you some beats and we'll collab?" And my response was, "Send me an X type beat, and they never contacted me again because they were real. I don't want to say because they were real X fans, but because they probably felt I was trying to capitalize off the situation. It wasn't even. It's not even. It's not even that. It just seems appropriate.
Yeah.
It's because I wasn't an X fan, because I received this music so late that people are getting offended by me telling them send me an X type beat. There's nothing wrong with that.
You were actually. I think if y'all met, which I never met the guy in my life, I think if you like, he's kind of like you. He reminds me of you. With all of that, with everything, bro, the energies, the astrologies, and all of the numerologies, and all of that, man. He still reminds me of you.
Right.
You know what I mean? You was already there before this dude.
Granted, I'm almost a decade older than him.
Brought you to him. Like, yo, listen to this guy right here. And legit on top of that. But yeah.
I mean, this goes back to very basic science of people. This goes back to very basic people chess. You cannot. There's a lot of people out here that's too smart for their own good, too wise for their own vessel to even be able to handle. There's enough knowledge. The knowledge is never gonna not be there. And sometimes you have to exercise the language of silence. Sometimes silence is your best bet. Sometimes silence was on my side and it showed me what the world really was. Silence speaks a lot more than words can ever. Am I saying that he talked too much?
Your go-to.
Never make. I don't know if I agree with that or not, bro. I don't know if I agree with that, but I'm saying that your silence, just like one thing that I do say, curiosity is the best teacher.
Closed mouths don't get fed.
Closed mouths don't get
wise
fed.
Wise man laughs. Smart man explains type shit. Or whatever the fuck. You know what I'm saying? Whatever the saying goes.
Right. Wait. No.
Wise man knows.
Right. I mean, two quotes that I want to say. Number one, curiosity is the best teacher. Number two, you never want to be the smartest person in the room. If you're the smartest person in the room, you're doing something wrong. So what I'm saying is, Johnny James says, "Hey, say it's the quietest ones you should always worry about." I mean, that goes without saying. But I think that silence would have served him, because when you're quiet, yes, when you have a lot of information, you have to get it out. You have to let it be known. At some point, you have to let that energy. It's just like money. It's just like money. You have to spend the money for the money to come back to you and to triple itself and to make itself more present in your life. That's how you treat money. You can't hoard money too much. You have to spend that motherfucker. You have to bless it, give it a kiss, send it away. If it's yours, it'll come back to you. If it doesn't, it never was. But at the same time, if you're quiet, you have enough time to assess what's going on.
And in this
you can't keep letting everybody with the fuck's inside your head.
Kind of screwed is the context of speaking of death in music and bringing that energy up. That's why we're talking about it like that.
I mean, of course, letting it marinate and letting that dirt be refreshed. I mean, at the end of the day, what I'm saying is, you don't have to speak that name. You don't have to speak death's name so much. If the purpose, the intention is good, that's great. We've seen countless artists do this. We've seen Tyler the Creator transform into saying the most horrible things that a rap artist can say, into transforming into this man that we would have never even known had his life been taken at that same age. We would have thought he was just a depressed, emo fucking. We would have thought the same thing. We would have thought the same thing of Tyler. We probably would have thought the same thing. But even worse, people would have been even harder on Tyler the Creator. But we watched him blossom. Tyler the Creator is what, like 25 or some shit, right? But now he's talking about he was depressed. Now he's having money. Now he's traveling the world. The money didn't change him for a minute, but now he had the resources to refresh himself. He had the resources to do something different with his life and his energy. He didn't even we didn't even give X a chance at this point. Not we, because I didn't kill him. But it's it's the same premise. It's the same. It's that same energy, you know. But I think that's all. Well, we can just go on. Fuck it.
I mean, we can talk about bullshit like fuck it, nigga.
I gotta cut this interview in half. At some point, I'm gonna download it and cut it in half. But it's cool. We can just keep fucking. I think it's in my opinion that this was. I think that a lot of people are using that I word, and I don't think the eyes had anything to do with it. I don't think it was random, like the police are saying it's random. I think that it was planned well, and meditated on. And I don't think that it was. I think that it was put out there, honestly. Right. I would really like you. I would really like you to watch the interview, the video that I made called "Did XXX Commit Suicide?" Because I am wholeheartedly right. I mean, just hold on. Wholeheartedly, I think this is what happened. And in that video was a live stream, bro. And when I was talking to another X fan during that live stream, and I said, I hope you don't take offense or feel anything towards this when I say this. When you told me, and when I felt this, when I actually searched for what was going on a spiritual level, I felt happy. And it wasn't like I was hating on him to the point where I was glad he was dead, but it was an energy that a couple other X fans felt at the same time. They told me along what I said was when I received the message and when I did my spiritual work and I found out that he was no longer with us, it was a rush of happiness. I felt liberated. I felt like I could do a lot of things with my life. I felt like I didn't have to be in an impoverished state of mind anymore. I felt like I could really reach my goals and make my life my life. And going with that, I watched a video by a guy named Flight Boss. I'm not sure if you're familiar with his work, but Flight Boss said, if your loved ones go to hell when they die, you're gonna feel very depressed. You're gonna feel very hurt. You're gonna feel a lot of negative things if you're not spiritually inclined, if you're not in touch with your soul. So if you feel happy when they die, or if you just feel this lightness, this weight off your shoulders, that means they went to heaven or a good place. So that was one of my messages. If you want to go back and watch that video, that was one of my messages. This is why everybody's saying, "Oh, he's not dead. He did this. It was a publicity stunt." No, he's he's gone. I love you guys, but he's no longer with us. And with that, I'm saying that because I felt this positivity and this happiness, although I was not a fan, he is in paradise. He's in a good place. He's in heaven because I felt these emotions, because I just felt so empowered. I just felt so motivated in life. I felt so open, you know. And that's just what I'm giving you, bro.
Yeah. And I understand where you're coming from, bro. And I'm not even a conspiracy theorist or anything like that. But to me, the way the things fall off is what I'm going to say before. The way that things fall off to me is kind of like history going back to itself. I mean, there was no reason. It was kind of abrupt. It was kind of like nobody would have ever thought it or thunk it. So therefore, everybody's in an uproar.
Like
I'm not gonna say that he's still alive or no bullshit like that. I'm just gonna say that it's a little questionable of how it's already going before. I was already thinking this before it even happened. The way I think this shit happened, bro. I think this shit was legit like an execution, bro. Like a legit smart ass execution. Motherfuckers knew exactly what they was doing before they did it, and they knew like all types of shit just by how they moved.
I don't think it was an execution.
Maybe they shot the nigga in the right place. Maybe they knew this. Maybe they knew that. Maybe it was just coincidence. Coming from not an avid shooter, but a good enough, a person that knows there's something there. And guess what? I don't think that they're gonna find anybody.
No, they're not.
And the story's already meshing up in that way. It's a random ass robbery. How you gonna find that? All right, let's check some footprints. Let's check this and let's check that. Kind of hard. You ever seen that movie Strangers? Just off that thing, just off of the name Strangers and seeing the previews. I've never seen that movie. Just seeing the previews or whatever. Bang. How you gonna figure out who did it? There was no real reason to do it.
Because look at the facts, bro.
Robbery? Okay.
Look at the facts. I don't know how. Okay, that's not a fact. I was gonna say something stupid, but if it was a random robbery, which they say, why didn't they do it before? Number one. Number two, they probably didn't do it before because there's cameras in the motherfucking in the lot. So I don't know how close. The witness said they were probably about 20 feet away, so you're not gonna see a license plate from 20 feet away. So they were waiting on them. Okay, so the only reason. Let me ask you this. He got shot in the neck.
I didn't know that part.
Yeah, there's a witness video on Dama's Real or some shit. There's the witness, white guy, that asked him to take a picture. Whatever his name is. But so the witness said there was no red mask. That's a myth. They didn't have on a mask, and they had on red bandanas and no mask, and they didn't have bandanas on their face at all. So let me ask you this: they shot him. They 20
feet away. All right, yeah.
So they shot at him 3 times. They only hit him once successfully in the neck. So that wasn't like a skilled shooter, because it would have maybe you would have shot 3 times and hit him twice or some shit like that. The shit went in his neck. So let me ask you this. What kind of gun would have shot him in the neck and left no blood? Something small or something big?
From what I heard, at first it was 5 shots.
Okay.
And then a red mask, right? I think a lot of people heard that first.
Yes.
I'm on Discord. I see this shit. I get the notification all the damn time.
Mm-hmm.
It's 5 shots, right? Red mask. Hence the one rapper. Then it switches up to 3 shots. This is the first time I'm hearing him. Then it switches up to 3 shots and 20 feet away. So niggas hopped out 20 feet away, which is...
Nah. The witness was 20 feet away. The witness was
okay.
20 feet
The
because
witness was 20
he
feet.
drove. X drove to the stop sign. He made a left out the motorcycle place. Drove to the stop sign, and the witness was standing right there and watching the whole thing. When he got to the stop sign, the black. Now they're saying it's a whole goddamn different car. At first, they were saying it's a Tahoe, a Chevy Tahoe. Now they're saying it's. I don't even remember what car they're saying. They're saying it's not a Tahoe now. But they drove up in a black Tahoe, hopped out, and then two people told him to get the fuck out the car, and he was yelling, "What the fuck's going on?" And he didn't get out the car, which is why they discharged 3 shots. One shooter, they both had guns. One person shot 3 shots through his windshield, and only one hit him on the left side of his neck, and it came out the right with no blood. So,
I didn't see a shot in his windshield at all, bro.
yeah, they said it was 3 shots. Now other people are saying.
I heard it was a passenger.
Nobody's saying it's a. People are. The witness didn't say it was a passenger. The witness is saying he drove off by himself.
I'm talking about it was on the passenger side.
Nah, they're saying that it went in his left neck, the left side of his neck, and came out the right with no blood at all. So that's probably a small gun, right?
It could be a 22, yeah. 25, 22. Most likely 22.
So why the fuck would you rob somebody from a distance like that with a small ass gun?
I don't know.
And maybe they didn't plan on shooting it. Maybe it was just spur of the moment. Maybe some drugs involved, whatever. But if you shoot somebody in the neck with a small gun, maybe this shit's not gonna leave any blood. But whatever the case is, I'm not a fucking CSI, so I don't.
I mean, it definitely could happen. I mean, you could pop somebody in the neck and it may not hit a artery or some bullshit like that, and there's no blood and shit and whatever. Now, definitely, the motherfucker's dead. He's dead. Dude's dead.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
We already confirmed that.
But you probably, like, bro, 22 bounce off in your goddamn body, bro. And on top of that, you might have, what do you call it? Hollow tips or fucking whatever the fuck, home defense rounds and fucking that shit just spreads. It's gonna break up. That'll hit you fast enough, breaks up.
You're not gonna hit anybody with a hollow tip. You're not gonna load up with hollow tips in a 22. You want the shit to bounce around and do some damage. So that's already common knowledge. You don't put hollow tips.
Even those will do that too, bruh. They'll bounce around in your shit. As a matter of fact, why wouldn't you use a hollow tip?
In a 22? If you're trying to kill somebody?
Yeah. Why wouldn't you?
Because you want the shit to bounce around and do some damage. You want that shit to stay in them and fuck some shit up.
That leg is real weak, bruh. It'll still flower out.
Well, of course, like I said, I'm not a fucking firearms engineer, and I don't study this. That's not my craft. But at the end of the day, it's in my opinion, it wasn't an apparent or an intentional assassination. They told him to get out the car. His response, according to the witness, was, "What the fuck's going on?" And maybe they didn't know his car was butterfly doors. It was a BMW. So they didn't know the doors were gonna come up or whatever. Maybe they got spooked, or maybe he did something wrong.
Did they lift the door up? Did
No.
they shoot him through the window?
There's
a lot of things that's in question. Why is the passenger door open?
You gotta watch the witness video, bro. You gotta watch the witness video. They didn't do anything but wait for him to get out the car when they said get out the car. And when he tried to get out the car,
he was dead in the car.
Bro, when he tried to get out the car, which is my whole thing, they probably thought he was reaching for something, and then they shot him. Exactly. Maybe the car.
My whole point is, yeah.
maybe the car only opened from like because from a Beamer, I believe, no, a Benz, you can only roll down the windows. Yeah, you can only roll down the windows from the middle console. You can't roll down the windows. They don't have a window control on the door. They only have them on the middle console. So maybe he was doing something to open the door. A old ass one, bro. So maybe he could only open the door from that model. Maybe he could only open the doors from that model on a specific side, or maybe he dropped something, something. He was trying to get out the car, but something happened where he couldn't immediately get out the goddamn car. Or maybe the doors flew up and they got spooked. I think it was an accident where maybe he was reaching for a gun. They thought he was reaching for something.
I don't think there's a button to lift those doors up. You have to manually open those doors.
It's probably multiple ways.
I know that for a fact.
To open that door.
It's not an expensive. It's not too expensive ass car.
Well, again.
The way you could have you just press a button and bitch open. I don't even think most cars have that.
So to solidify what I said, I don't know anything about guns. I don't know anything about cars, and I'm proud of that. But they told him get out the car. His response was, "What the fuck is going on?" Maybe the doors opened up. Maybe he dropped something. Maybe he was reaching for something. Maybe they thought he was reaching for a gun. They shot 3 shots through the windshield. He got hit once in the neck, and it came out the right side of his neck, and there was no blood or anything like that. Again, people are saying he was wearing a big hoodie or wearing some kind of jacket.
I did see a picture with 2 doors open, but I didn't see the window. I didn't see the windshield popped out. I didn't see the passenger side real good either. The way he was slumped to the left. Right? So obviously somebody came from the passenger side. That's just what it looks like. Maybe he moved. Maybe he didn't die right away. I don't know. 3 shots? I don't know.
Yeah, they should have. I mean, and then they said everybody stayed in the dealership after they rode off, and then they ran in the car. They took his Louis bag off him. So I mean, if you get shot in the neck and you don't have a pulse and you can't breathe, of course the first thing that you do, you try to plug up the wounds. If you see he can't breathe with his mouth open, you might want to do a tracheotomy, but there was no medically trained people on the scene at that point. Even somebody like me will know that if he got shot in the neck and he can't breathe, you might want to do a tracheotomy, plug the holes up, close his mouth so he can fucking breathe. Who knows if that would have worked?
Hopefully you've seen some signs of life. Hence a pulse.
I don't know. He got shot in the neck, so maybe they didn't want to put their hands too close to his neck, squeeze on the wounds or anything like that. I don't know. That's deeper than I actually wish to go.
But, I know.
Just because I always think about that shit. Like, what could these people have done? I mean, I'm sure everybody thinks about that shit, but nobody's gonna take a knife out and stick it in his fucking trachea and put a pin and close the holes and close his mouth. Like, nobody really thinks like that except for a medically trained person. But everybody's in panic mode, and his uncle was there. His uncle was there. On his dad's side, his uncle was there. His uncle and I think 5 families, at least 1 fan, and his homie was there. Whatever the case is, that's going into the physicalities of it. But
yeah.
Not to sound selfish, bros. Not to sound selfish.
Because I literally have a whole lot more to say. You know what I'm saying? This is your stream. I'm just letting you do you.
I really want to cut it off and go back on again because
you can do that.
We can do that, bro. I just want to say that his fans, he was probably like the Drake of the underground, or maybe that's pretty pretty bold statement to say, but he wasn't quite mainstream enough to get the acknowledgement that he's not getting. But they didn't even do this for Slim Duncan. They didn't even do this for Prince. You know, we acknowledge Prince because we got the knowledge of his department from this dimension at night. Yeah, they acknowledge Prince for about, I want to say 16 hours. But yeah, exactly. But this is going on the third day that X is not with us, and I'm sure there's still gonna be nothing I can do on social media without saying something about X's department from this dimension. So um, I hope that you guys definitely find a place of healing because this is something that anybody who's doing anything that's trying to put out any projects or mention anything is being shunned from doing that because of X's death. And it makes me really want to dive deeper into his legacy.
What would to a major fan? What do you think X would want from you, from the music that you still listen to as to this day? What do you think you would need to take from that, and you use that? You make your own decision.
So that is the end message. How are you gonna weaponize and shield yourself with X's death? What are you gonna do with it? If you're a real fan and this legacy and this market and this person, this human being, this child, what are you gonna do with his death? He died, and what are you gonna do with it? That's it. It's AaroniMoses. Life is in the breath. I'm the bang, you the bang, we the bang together. We got stats of THOT Star. We're going back live in a couple minutes. RIP Xxxtentacion. I'm the bang, you the bang, we the bang together. Peace.